What's up everyone, it's Lo, Beauty Demon, and we are back with internet BS, particularly of the creepshow art variety. This video is going to be about Emily Artful's response to creepshow art's response to her allegations, accusations. I don't really know which word is correct. They might both be. Emily Artful did post her response finally, so I did want to go over it a little bit, but some of it is kind of feels like regurgitating from my last couple videos on the topic. A lot of this video is just clarification of things that Emily said and then accusations that Shannon made. So it feels kind of repetitive from my last video. So some things I might be paraphrasing, other things I might go into a little bit deeper detail about. However, if you want obviously the full story, I would definitely go recommend watching Emily's video, which I will link down below as well. But before we get into this, if you have not already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post. Don't send anybody that we talk about in this video any hate, negativity, nothing like that. These are just my thoughts and opinions based on what I'm seeing play out on the internet. So if you have something to say about what we're talking about, just shoot it down in the comments below. That's what they are there for. Okay. Let's get into this. So Emily uploaded her video and she had been kind of like, I don't want to say she was like teasing her video because that makes it sound like a movie that people are waiting for. I mean, people did want to see it, but she was kind of just like updating everybody, letting us know, like, I am working on the video. At one point, she said that she was shooting for it to be 20-30 minutes. And I was like, praise the Lord, Whitney in heaven. But it turns out that was not the case. So Emily uploaded this video at like 10 p.m. my time. I had to get up at 6 a.m. the next day. This video was an hour and 35 minutes long. So I did what any responsible adult would do. And I stayed up and I watched the entire video and I went to bed at 11:45. So the video did feel kind of chaotic, you know, all over the place, but it is a response to a chaotic dumpster fire that was also all over the place. So I can't really blame her, but I think that also made my notes kind of be a little all over the place. I struggled a little bit because I wanted to make this video feel as cohesive as possible, and just because my brain felt so scattered as I was looking over my notes. But this video is called I'm Done, Shannon. The whole tone of this video is Emily's over it. Emily is over defending herself. She is over revisiting trauma over and over again and reliving it publicly, over digging up receipts of proof of stalkers and trauma, and I don't blame her. I feel like we're all a little over it. We're all just kind of over Shannon at this point. I feel like we were kind of over Shannon for a while. So Emily starts off with the very beginning of Shannon's video where Shannon posts that whole legal claim of lies, saying that Shannon's lawyer did send her a letter and she told her to remove everything and to never speak of Shannon and Shannon's brand again, to not reveal that this email was even sent to her. So she was essentially supposed to go completely radio silent, remove everything, not comment on the situation when everyone knows, Shannon knows, Emily knows, this lawyer probably really has no idea, but that's really not exactly their fault. But everyone on the internet would be badgering Emily, where are your videos? Why aren't you speaking about this? And if she never responded to anything, well, we would probably all jump to the logical conclusion that Shannon in some way has legally silenced Emily, especially when she stated that she would be posting this video if like Emily removed things, which she didn't. So I don't know why she posted this video. She was gonna post this video and Emily was not gonna be able to respond to this at all, like period, like not even any comment. If anybody asked her anything, nothing. So I'm going off my notes here and I made a note that Emily called Shannon and Anthony Shanthony, and we love a couple's name here. Emily speculates that Shannon probably hoped that she would remove all of her videos, and then, you know, essentially Shannon would be able to go on and publicly harass her like she has allegedly been doing in private for so many years. Emily dug a little deeper into this lawyer and what firm this lawyer came from, and she found out very quickly that this is like kind of one of those big firms that like works with social media influencers and like just people in general, like businesses too, to help remove like negative reviews and clean up your public image. And Emily even saw like one of their like mission statements, if you will, is let's take control of your online presence and narrative. Essentially, it just sounds like a PR lawyer firm. Their main course of action is to send over a scary looking legal letter on some legal letterhead, or I don't really know how that works with email. The reason they do this though is because it scares 99% of people. 99% of people cannot afford to go through any sort of lawsuit, much less something like a defamation lawsuit, which is very hard to do in court and can take years and years and hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, Emily does say at the end of her video, like, hey, look, you can take me to court if you want, but we both know, like, we don't have the money to spend in court, and I don't know where Emily lives. Emily did say at one point she took a lot of precautions to move and not really share where her location is, and I'm not gonna dig that up. But I'm assuming they probably don't live in the same state, so that's even harder to work with because trying to figure out where you're filing stuff. So Emily supposes that Shannon probably posted this video because she really didn't have any true legal course of action, and she just decided, well, I'm just gonna try and take Emily down with me, which is also fucking unhinged, because when you're like, I'm just gonna take this person down with me, it shows that you do have an extremely strong emotion to that person, whatever that emotion may be. In this, I'm going to assume it is complete and utter hate. Emily does discuss the original, what everybody's kind of calling the leaked first draft of the document that became Shannon's script. And I looked at this, I did consider making a video over this, but honestly, I just didn't want to make a long, boring video, and I felt that's like what it would kind of be. In the original first draft leaked document, there are just so many more sections where she is just ripping into Emily and repeating herself over and over again. And to me, I was like, she really, really hates Emily, or she couldn't possibly be doing these things because this, and this. And then we'll have an extra like 3 pages about it, where in the final document in the video, it was like maybe a couple of pages. In the leaked first draft of Shannon's doc too as well, mentioned a lot more of using a private investigator, that every person that she mentioned would totally be testifying that in a court of law. And she mentioned several people, several friends of Shannon and Anthony and Emily that were witnesses to incidents that Emily and Anthony had and would testify to some of this in court as well. So in the legal letter that Shannon's lawyer sent to Emily, it says that Emily's accusations were the reason that Shannon had to leave her channel. And that's not entirely true. That was like the part of the iceberg that was under the water, but what actually we saw and the problem she ran into, essentially, I'm just making a terrible Titanic reference, an iceberg, I'm sorry, but it was the lolcow stuff. She has still never responded to any of that. That was the big catalyst of everything. If that shit had never happened, Emily would never have felt comfortable coming out with her story. So to put all of that blame on Emily is completely false. And I think that is another major reason that we know Shannon really doesn't have a legal case against Emily. This is not all her fault. This is Shannon's doing. Real quick before I get too far into it, I did want to kind of compare their videos, and at the time of filming this, Emily's video has 53k likes and 226 dislikes, and at the time of filming Shannon's video sits at 2.1k likes and 64k dislikes. Anyway, moving on, she does discuss Shannon's claims of privacy claims that were happening to her channel as to why the reason she had a lot of videos had been removed when all this stuff was happening. And this was right after Emily came forward, and Emily says, why would somebody be privacy striking all of these storytime videos? But Shannon said she will prove this in a court of law. Okay, Shannon, this is the court of public opinion. You have already ruined any real legal case you might have at this point with your video. So just show us the receipts. Show us the receipts. You showed us everything else you found, but you can't actually show us any real tangible proof of anything. So Emily, however, does show a receipt of a video that she privated before the lolcow stuff even happened. It just happened to be a couple days before. So that was just a coincidence, and it was completely unrelated. She said the reason was she just didn't agree with aspects of the video anymore, so she didn't want it on her channel. When it came to the lolcow leaks, Emily kind of shows that Shannon is projecting a lot on Emily. She references a conversation that she and Emily had that only only she and Emily knew about. Emily said she never shared this. Emily even shows evidence of when she confronted Shannon in 2018 of, hey, are you the one doing this? Are you stalking me? What's going on? And it kind of like petered off. That the lolcow posts started around that time. So Shannon felt like she couldn't go at Emily anymore, so she had to do this elsewhere. Shannon like said in her video of her stalker that her stalker did this for some kind of like stress reliever. I feel like that little bit of evidence of Emily saying, look, after I confronted her and stuff started dying down with me is when these lolcow posts started. I think that really speaks to the fact that what Shannon said is true about her stalker. But Shannon does this allegedly because it relieves stress and tension for her, and I think it makes her feel better about herself too. I mean, isn't that why like a lot of people are bullies? Because they feel bad about themselves, and making other people feel bad makes them feel better. And in terms of projection, Emily says in some of Shannon's posts, she kind of tries to make it look like it's Emily posting her own content, or if somebody else posted Emily's content, she would respond as saying like, okay, Emily, or whatever, trying to like project that it was Emily sharing her content, when Shannon was outed for sharing her own content on lolcow, which is actually against the rules. One of the few rules that they have over there is you don't self-promote. I mean, really, you know, we just know what Shannon's all about. Deflect, project, deflect, project. That is her defense, is look what this person did. I did this for real, but we're just gonna say that they do it. I'm gonna twist it around. Emily highlighted something that Truth Sleuth also actually discovered. That is a hard name to actually say aloud, which was the stalker video that Shannon posted was posted merely days after Emily had come forward about having a stalker. Not that she knew who the stalker was or anything like that, but that she had made it public that somebody was harassing her on the internet. Just a couple days later, Shannon posted her stalker video. So Emily's thought that Shannon was kind of leaving these breadcrumbs to help clear her name maybe down the road if Emily ever came out kind of holds a little bit of weight, considering this bit of evidence that Truth Sleuth found. I have such a hard time with that word. It's my little lisp that's hiding. Emily goes on to discuss how much of the evidence that Shannon found and presented, she had to take these screenshots a while ago. Some of these screenshots from like her Facebook, for example, were shown to have been taken 2 years before. So Shannon has been keeping track and keeping records of Emily for a while. And Emily says some of the stuff that Shannon shared, like certain screen names, she couldn't even find them. Like Emily herself could not even find some of this stuff. Like surprisingly, some things do disappear off the internet. And that's true because I have been looking for the sewer horse meme page for like a decade because I used to love it back in the early 2000s, and I can't find that shit anywhere. So sometimes things disappear off the internet. But even like screen names that Emily was like, oh yeah, I did use that as a screen name and I never really posted anything on that blog, but sure, yeah, how do you know about that? And if you know about a screen name that I completely forgot about because it's 10 years old, what else do you know about me? And there are several times in this video where Emily uses clips that either other creators found or that she herself has seen, where Shannon completely contradicts the actions that she took against Emily publicly in regards to, for example, saying Shannon said people shouldn't be attacking a minor who's on the internet for doing whatever unless they're doing something illegal. But she says like attacking kids for doing things on the internet, cringy, is fucked up. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. They're just kids. You shouldn't punish them. But then she made an entire video where she dug up Emily's past and tried to publicly flog her with it. And she even has the audacity to out herself as making a cringy fanfic of Gerard Way, but being smart enough when she was 14 to not post it on the internet because that creepy fanfic would be used against her now as an adult. And that's wrong. And then she made a whole 2-hour video and had a whole huge section. In fact, the majority of that video is shit from so long ago. Like, Emily wasn't a minor for all of that stuff, but she was still young. Shannon, even in this one clip that Emily includes, Shannon says, hey, people's brains aren't fully developed until they're 25, so maybe we should cut people in their early 20s some slack when they do stupid shit on the internet because they aren't fully developed yet. And then she continues to take everything from Emily's life from the age of 13 to like 25-ish and do exactly that. Shannon has morals and ethics except for when it comes to Emily. Emily is forced to dive into her drug past, and at very great length. She clarifies a lot that when she was younger, she wasn't using street drugs, she was using prescription drugs, but she was abusing them in many cases, taking too many, mixing things. So Shannon jumping to conclusions of her doing hard street drugs like heroin or cocaine was kind of a little bit of overkill. Emily even says, cocaine, Jesus Christ, I didn't say that. But she was using several prescription medications. Now, she does talks about Suboxone and other things that people do use in treatment to help people who are coming off of opiates. Dives really into that. That becomes like a whole freaking chemistry lesson. And I hope you guys took notes because I feel like we're gonna have a quiz. But Emily talks about one drug named Abilify. And truth time, I have taken Abilify before. I took Abilify for a year. It was prescribed to me with another medication. When I got to the part about the Abilify, I actually, like, my mind was blown. Because the compulsive behaviors that are big side effects that she said there have been class action lawsuits about, I experienced some of that stuff. The time when I was on Abilify was a very crazy and chaotic time in my life that took me years to recover from. I don't want to go into great detail about any of it, but some of those compulsive behaviors, like, holy shit, I was like, yeah, that was me on Abilify. And I never put together that the behavior was a result of that. When I thought about it, as I watched this video, I realized, yeah, that compulsive behavior literally started when I started taking that drug. And then when I stopped taking it, it pretty much went away. I can personally vouch for the fact that Abilify is a crazy drug when you're taking it as prescribed. If you're abusing it and mixing it with other medications that your doctor doesn't know you're mixing it with, well, that's a whole other recipe for disaster. Yeah, the Abilify totally checks out, and I really wish I had known about that class action lawsuit because I would have totally jumped in on that. But the other reason that Emily really dives into this entire drug history of herself is because obviously there was the rape with Anthony where she was going in and out of consciousness, and she clarifies, look, I may not have been exactly on heroin, I could have been on Suboxone or something like that, which she would use intermittently because a lot of addicts do that, or a lot of people who are getting clean as well. She also talks about how, she went through a period of where she would be sober and then relapse and sober and relapse. Like I said, drug addicts have lots of different sobriety dates. Sometimes people relapse and are afraid or ashamed to admit it or even accept it sometimes, which essentially sounds like that's what was happening with Emily.
Just because at times I could be a chronic overshare about certain things doesn't mean I couldn't also hide other things I felt more personal shame over. And sure, you could use the fact that I was also hiding a lot of things from my social media as a way to paint me as an unreliable narrator, which you actually do several times within your video, but then that makes the majority of your evidence useless. Which is it? Am I an unreliable narrator who frequently lies, or am I someone to be taken at face value?
But there does seem to be some proof that she was admitting it to Anthony the night that it seems he came over because there were messages back and forth. She did say that she also would mix alcohol with this stuff, which is not good. Don't mix alcohol with any medications, especially something like that. And then a good chunk of this video is just her clarifying or correcting things that Shannon pieced together about her life. So Shannon just jumps to conclusions. She just tries to fill in the gaps. Because like I say all the time, we don't know people on social media. Our brain just fills in the gaps, and that's what parasocial relationships are. You've seen so much of a person and you've heard so much of their life story that you think you know that person and you know what pieces go where. And that's kind of what Shannon's doing. She's in this weird, fucked up, pathological parasocial relationship with Emily because she said she has never met Emily. So she's never met Emily, but she knows her whole fucking life because Shannon has created this whole timeline, and because she thinks that she knows Emily, even though she said she's never met Emily, she knows confidently where the gaps get filled in. And that is because Shannon takes Anthony's word as the complete and utter truth. He is the holder of the Emily lore. Like, he fucking knows what's happening. At one point in this video, Emily says there's 3 sides to every story. Shannon's side, Emily's side and the truth. But the thing is that Shannon wasn't there for anything. She wasn't there for any shit that happened. Shannon doesn't have a side in this story. Shannon wasn't there when Emily and Anthony dated. She wasn't there when Emily was in her drug addiction. She wasn't there when Emily was with Bob. She wasn't there for any part of Emily's life. No, there's no Shannon's side. Shannon is not involved in this, really. She's just in a parasocial relationship with Emily. It's fucking pathological is what it is. Emily does decide to keep Bruce, who she calls Brandon's identity secret. She does use a couple clips of his video but blurs out his face because she feels like he's still being manipulated, and I do think that is true. He is being manipulated by Shannon Anthony, but he posted this video out. I do understand her stance. She also finds it interesting that the Brita Filter account, which was the burner account that this person made because their sibling was allegedly the person stalking Emily, and the Brita Filter account said their sibling had every screen name Emily had ever used, a video of her in the bathtub, and pretty much everything that Shannon said that the Brita Filter account offered her. But what was interesting is that Shannon said to Emily, yeah, the Brita Filter account admitted to being your stalker, but then to Emily, the Brita Filter account said, I'm your stalker's sibling, and what I found was really disturbing, and this is what they have. Emily does also discuss like weight fluctuations, which can come from drug use, and I believe Emily does touch on the fact that she kind of developed an eating disorder a little bit, but Shannon took a picture of her from her yearbook and said, well, there was no way that she's 15 in this picture because I've never seen it before, and I've seen all of her social media pictures across all platforms. This must be from before she started posting on the internet. Yes, Shannon thinks yearbook photos are prehistoric things. Emily does take some time to apologize for shitty comments that she made, disparaging other women and trying to tear them down, that she was very much a pick-me kind of girl, very toxic, and she really hates that, and she has been doing a lot of work to overcome that. And can we just applaud her because she echoes a sentiment that I've said before of, I hate when YouTubers or creators are outed for something shitty that they've done in the past, and they say, you know, that's not me, or I'm not that person, but that is you, that you are that person. And Emily says that. She says, I was that person. I was a shitty person. I have been doing a lot of work to not be a shitty person and to build people up because I was insecure. In regards to Shannon saying, well, Emily just accuses everybody of abusing her, Emily says, nope, I actually only accuse a few people of abusing me, but she takes aspects and stories of her life and she kind of like sprinkles them around through and creates new stories. So I guess it's easy for Shannon to jump to that conclusion because, you know, her parasocial relationship only allows her to know what Emily shares on the internet. Emily does say she did used to hang around a lot of unsavory people when she was in her active addiction, so she was a victim to lots of different kinds of abuse, not just physical abuse. And Shannon just takes like teenage blog posts of overreacting as like full-blown abuse accusations. So Emily actually has Bob and asks him questions to clarify everything using proper verbiage, and he confirms so many aspects of Emily's story. He confirms how Emily lost her job to the video being sent to her job, and, you know, how her dad struggled with her being in active addiction, how he let her stay with her for a while. Once again, it just shows that Shannon doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about because she doesn't know Emily at all. She just goes off what Anthony is telling her, and will even go to the point of taking the things that Anthony tells her, using them, and then searching for screenshots that can support whatever lie Anthony has fed her. And Emily points out that Shannon must not be very good at math.
There are several instances where Shannon just completely fabricates evidence but puts screenshots up on the screen as if they directly corroborate what she had just said. An example of this is her smoking gun evidence from a post I made on my Instagram several years ago. ago. She claims that my real sobriety date was in November 2012 and uses the lyrics from a song I wrote, sang, and posted in September 2016, specifically about my relationship with heroin, as confirmation of that date. The lyrics are 3 years in November, and she says that's further proof that my sobriety date was in November of 2012, except November 2016 minus 3 would be November 2013. She also did this using a clip from my I Dated a Sociopath video, which I uploaded in May of 2016. Did Shannon not know math?
But to be fair though, math is really hard. Bob did confirm seeing her use drugs because Shannon said, well, she didn't use drugs when she was with Bob. Bob's like, no, I literally saw it. It's fucking scary when people nod, and if you've ever seen somebody nod, it is very scary. Emily also shows that Shannon really didn't have any regard for any of her friends or fellow creators by evidence that Emily approached Shannon initially about possible stalking and asked her about this Brita Filter account. Shannon even tried to drag the creator Hopeless Peaches into it, saying this account had also sent her information, and she knows that she has it even if she says she doesn't, which I think she said that part in like her Google Doc. And Hopeless Peaches is like, no, I definitely don't have that. If it went to some other like spam folder or something in my email and it's sitting there and Shannon's that confident because she knows it's sitting there, well, that's suspicious. That's weird. Shit's not adding up, but we already established that Shannon is bad at math. And then they talk about Anthony's grandmother because Shannon says there's no way Emily ever met this woman. They weren't dating when his grandpa was dating this woman. She was dating somebody else. But remember, Emily and Anthony did hang out and were kind of like friends with benefits for a while. And Emily's like, I totally know this woman. I've been to her house. I recorded 2 songs with Anthony in this house. I know this woman. Emily discusses with Bob the review that Shannon left for Bob's place of work that Anthony told Shannon was a catalyst for Emily freaking out at Anthony, and now Emily hated Shannon. She posted like little messages, Shannon posted like screenshot messages of this. Now Bob said, I can't find that review anywhere. It could be because Shannon deleted her Facebook, but I saw it and he can verify that it is real because it mentions an employee that has never been mentioned on their social media or anything anywhere. So she would have had to go in person. Emily says, yeah, I recommended that Anthony go to the store because you guys had an item that I knew he would want. But Bob says the thing is our store was pretty far from the location of where they were. They would have to actually really go out of their way to come here. And there were other stores that were closer to them that or just as good that sold what he wanted. So it was very specific to go into that store. It was not a random by chance we went into the store that Emily's boyfriend worked at. It was definitely intentional. And at this point, Emily and Anthony were on good terms anyway. So I think like possibly Anthony was using this as a way to manipulate both of the women against each other in some way, shape, or form, or at least like Shannon against Emily, because it just seems like he was kind of weaponizing her insecurities about Emily and about that whole situation. And she just takes everything that he says as the God-honest truth, which is going to be part of her downfall. And Emily maintains that the only time her and Anthony ever broke up was not like the 3 previous times that Bruce said in his video. It was the only time it happened was when he called her and started yelling at her and told her that her and Anthony were over and hung up the phone. And the instance with the black paint all over her body, well, that was drug-induced psychosis. She was having a mental breakdown that was not related to the breakup. It was completely related to drug abuse. And one of the friends that Shannon mentioned in her leaked first draft, Emily says she's still friends with this person on Facebook. However, she did not actually contact this person like recently or anything, but she did say in 2018 when she was wanting to file a restraining order against Anthony, she did contact this person and told them everything that was going on, and they were very sympathetic. So if they were somebody that was witness to all of these things that happened between Emily and Anthony, that Emily says, none of the shit that Shannon is saying happened. Anything that these people possibly witnessed is not anything. When she messaged this guy asking for Anthony's information for a possible restraining order, they were sympathetic. Like I said, from what I see, she did not recently reach out to this person. However, it seems like they are still on good enough terms, if they're still Facebook friends. So Emily pretty much wraps up this video by making the super valid point of, why are you bringing up shit from 10 years ago to try and bring it up in a court of law? What are you trying to prove? What is this? What are you trying to prove with the evidence that you're giving here? Because really it just looks like she's a stalker. But like, what's the point of it? For real, that's a great question. She does also give some fellow creators who were Shannon's friends, or at least they thought they were Shannon's friends, just a little bit of time for their quick reactions with cute little drawing blurbs. Emily states what I think many of us feel. We are done. We're done with Shannon trying to twist words, because that's what she did. She twisted everything that Emily said. I mean, you can really see the complete distaste that she has for Emily through every statement she's made. She doesn't even try to apologize or anything. She's completely on the defensive as opposed to being sympathetic that something's happening. Emily does expose Shannon for scamming a sub out of $400 allegedly for not following through on basically what was a sponsored post. This person paid Shannon money to promote a passion project of theirs, and Shannon barely did anything that she said she was going to do, and then she dipped from the internet. She also skipped out on paying a artist the second half of their payment because she had commissioned them for something, and then she got canceled and left. Well, your cancellation doesn't have anything to do with this person doing their work for you. They finished their work. Shannon should have still paid them. But this video ends with Emily daring Shannon to sue her because, you know, neither one of them have the money. Yeah, this video was something, that's for sure. It was a lot to sit through. I am really drained about this. At this point, I feel terrible for Emily that she consistently has to like be digging through everything and reliving trauma and going through all this heartbreak again. So she says she's not going to be discussing this anymore. I believe her. I don't think there is anything left to unturn at this point, unless Shannon comes back with some crazy new exposed video, but I doubt it. So anyway, that is it for today's video, you guys. I wish Emily all the best. I do also have a couple other videos that I'm going to be working on this weekend, so stay tuned for those as well. There's a couple other people that are just coming back to the internet. Anyway, you guys, if you like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Laters. Bye.